We're going to look at some II-gutturals now. These are problems 16 through 25 of our exercises. And in general, when we're looking at gutturals, we need to worry about doubling, what happens to schwas, both vocal and silent schwas, and also we need to take account of the fact that gutturals like A-class vowels, both with them and preceding them. And so with II-gutturals, with the second letter of a root is a guttural, we need to look at the impact of doubling, and that will affect the intensive stems, where doubling occurs for the R2 letter. And then schwas will affect us when the theme vowel of the verb reduces, normally when there are vocalic endings. And then finally, we need to account for theme vowels that are non-A-class, sometimes converting to A-class because gutturals prefer A-class. It's not an absolute rule, and there are some forms that override even the guttural's preference for A-class. We'll see one or two of those. So we're going to look at number 16 here. So we have II-aru, and if we recognize our root here is ba'ar, we see a yod prefix with a hirik, and this could be kal or nifal, but the silent schwa under the R1 tells us it's a kal. The prefix tells us that it is an imperfect. The yod tells us it's third masculine, and the shurik imperfect ending tells us it's plural. Now notice that the theme vowel here normally reduces with the vocalic ending, but here it becomes a compound schwa, a hatef patak, rather than a simple vocal schwa. But this doesn't affect our parsing at all. It's good to know that the guttural did convert that simple vocal schwa to a compound schwa, but we already had the parsing for it before we even needed to look at the theme vowel. Kal imperfect, third masculine plural, root of ba'ar, and this would just be they will burn. Okay, let's look at the next one here. We have barachu. Barachu. This looks a lot like a kal perfect third common plural, and in some cases actually for some roots it could be a kal perfect third common plural. The root barak has no examples in the kal stem, and so we need to look elsewhere. We need to back up for a second and look at a chart that will tell us what kind of gutturals will cause lengthening of vowels before them and which ones won't. So here's our chart. We have the intensive stems, piel, pual, hithpael, and then we have our gutturals, aleph, he, chet, ayin, resh. This chart comes from the Fuller-Choi textbook. It comes from Isaac Yerushalmi originally. The R stands for rejects dagesh forte, and that means that the previous vowel will lengthen. And the I means that it implies dagesh forte, meaning that the previous vowel does not lengthen. What's important to note here is that for the piel and hithpael, which are the most common of our stems, it is the aleph and the resh that reject the dagesh forte and so cause previous vowels to lengthen. The he, the chet, and the ayin do not for the piel and the hithpael. For the pual, we have all of the gutturals except for the chet will reject the dagesh forte and cause the previous vowel to lengthen. But the pual is less common, but let's just note that, for instance, the pual perfect third common plural in a strong verb would be kutalu. In a II-guttural, we say that kibbutz lengthens to a holum, so we have a OU class vowel that lengthens to a long O, and so we would get doachu. And so when we do see a pual where the previous vowel lengthens, that kibbutz will lengthen to a holum. Other than that, the main letters that we need to worry about are aleph and resh in terms of rejecting the dagesh forte. So let's come back to our problem here. We have barachu, and notice we have a resh here. And so a resh is one of the letters that rejects a dagesh forte and lengthens the previous vowel. So very likely we're looking at what was originally a patach. And a patach as a R1 vowel without a prefix indicates a PL, either imperative or infinitive construct, but with the ending here, this is an imperative masculine plural, and the root here is, of course, barach, and that would just be masculine plural bless, the command. Note here that the theme vowel is reduced and we have the compound schwa. The Masoretes were a little bit inconsistent about this. You can also see barach written like this, the same form, the masculine plural imperative, barachu, but here you have a simple vocal schwa. And so either one is allowable, and we would see either one. What's important to note here, though, is that the resh is one of the two, aleph and resh, that reject dagesh forte. We take a look down here briefly, and we see that this example here, karavu, could be a Cal perfect third common plural. In fact, it is in some cases, or a PL imperative masculine plural. It could be either one, and context would have to let us know which is which. The meaning of karav is similar in either Cal or PL. The PL is a little bit different, but context alone will let you know what's going on with these two. So let's move on to number 18 here. You've got ohave, ohave. Now, anytime you see a seriod at the end of what looks like a verb form, you're going to be thinking a participle masculine plural construct. And the only issue then is what stem is it? And in this case, we've got this holum as our R1 vowel. This looks to be a Cal, participle masculine plural construct of ahav, to love. And so we just have ones who love in the construct. I should note that this is a Cal active participle. Notice that under the hey we have the compound schwa, but it doesn't really affect our parsing here. Okay, let's move on. Next example here is hikriv. Hikriv, the hey with the hirik, is suggesting a hifil here. Hifil perfect, and the theme vowel and no perfect ending means third masculine singular, and the root is karav. The meaning would be something like he brought. The next example, number 20, yasharatu, yasharatu. If we took the root to be yashar, we'd have this tu ending, which doesn't make a lot of sense. If we take it to be sharat, then the ending and the prefix fit what we know for imperfects. So we'll take sharat as our root. We have a yod with a vocal schwa underneath it, so that is a PL or a pual. The R1 vowel here doesn't match a pual, and we see a resh as our R2, and so that means that doubling would be rejected. That would lengthen this vowel. So originally this would have been a patak, which fits our PL, and it got lengthened because of the resh rejecting the doubling. And so we have a PL imperfect third masculine plural of sharat, and that would be they will serve. Okay, number 21, yiyachel, yiyachel, and yachal means to wait or to hope. The yod with the hirik tells us kal or nifal. The doubled R1 plus the comets tells us nifal. And for these non-intensive stems, we don't have to worry about rejecting or implying the doubling. And so we just says yiyachel, nifal, imperfect, third masculine singular, yachal, and in the nifal, to wait or to hope. So he will wait, he will hope. Okay, number 22. We see our root is pretty clearly Bachar, and a vocal schwa under the first root letter and no prefix usually means we have either a Cal imperative or infinitive construct. Because of the guttural R2, we're expecting in some cases to see a A-class theme vowel. The infinitive construct tends to resist changing from the normal holum theme vowel to a patak, but the imperative does change. So I'm going to go with cal imperative here, a cal imperative masculine singular of bahar, and that would just be the command choose. Let's take a look at an example of a cal infinitive construct in a II-guttural. Bahar doesn't have any examples, but rachatz does. And rachatz would be rechotz. So notice that in this case, the infinitive construct overrides the guttural's preference for A class. And we'll find that oftentimes the infinitive construct tends not to let gutturals replace theme vowels with A class vowels. Okay, number 23, charov. Here we have what looks like the vowels for a cal infinitive absolute with that holem vav theme vowel. So the resh as the R2 doesn't really affect any kind of doubling or anything else, so we don't need to worry about this vowel. The charov is just a cal infinitive absolute of harav, drying up. Let's look at number 24, ma'ahavim. Ma'ahavim. The im ending tells us that we're probably looking at a participle, masculine plural absolute. We've got ahav here, which we recognize. The main prefix with the vocal shawah tells us that we have a piel or pual, and the patak under R1 tells us that we have a piel. So we have a piel participle, masculine plural absolute of ahav. That would be ones who love. And it looks like number 25 here is a one guttural. And so go ahead and write it out here. It's a cal infinitive construct of avad, but it's sort of a freebie. Okay, we're going to move on then to three gutturals next.